Good afternoon. My name is Edwin Singh, and today I'm going to present about my project 2. So, part 1, grammar of augmentation. So I'm going to go through the evolution of Nan Talong, where traditional, as you know, it's a wire and collet kind of presentation where they use verse, music, and speech as their main aspects of storytelling. So storytelling is like a narrative thing, but it has been declining over the years, and it was due to like urban modernization, where lifestyle become very fast-paced, and then everything becomes a shorter attention span, and they also have like modern film influence. Uh, that influence the community. So what really happens from there is that the community starts to prefer more fast-paced kind of entertainment and where something they can relate personally, so that the transfer of the narration becomes faster that way because they can recognize it instantly. So understanding empathy within the modern entertainment. So we're looking into like the modern films, right? Like how they actually influence the community. So like Akira Kurosawa said, like what's the great appeal? The great appeal of the film is its relatability. So we're just going to go through a few films like Mission Impossible, like Tom Cruise actually makes the stunt by himself, so that it actually creates a groundwork relatability that people can understand the stakes of the film. So that's what makes them more engaged into it. Okay, another one is like Grave of the Fireflies, where they connect through the audience through emotional empathy, where they talk about the loss of war. And the third movie is like just a Spider-Verse, where they talk about the personality of the city through the exaggeration of the size, shape, and directions. So how do they adapt this value into the Nang Talong? So there's actually like a soft adaptation and hard adaptation from my study. So like soft adaptation is more to new features in the original craft where like you can see in Nang Ya they add more stunts, in Nang Talong they add more comical characters, new characters, and they actually use like a new type of screen where they put laser on it. And in hard adaptation is like where they try to use the completely different medium. So the first one you can see Ramaki animation, which is mostly which kept most of the originality and the traditional approach towards the narrative. And then you can see the next two ones, Nunui and the last Dalang Last Tale, where this one they don't use like the traditional way of storytelling, but they remove the speech part of it, where they only use the action, gesture expression, music, and the facial expression, lighting, all these things to tell the story. So my main focus here is on Nunui because what it's true to traditional craft and where they actually use the real original puppets where they scan it and then create the animation out of it. So it still keeps to the originality while they make a breakthrough of what it can be. So I did a gestural study about from these actions from Nunui, where we look into the how what it creates. So you can see it can create that intensity of the pose, dynamic and subtlety, where all these details where it tells a story on its own. You don't need anyone to say anything. You just see the action and you already can relate to what they're doing. And when we're going into the ornaments and what I define as new ornaments, so you look into empathy. So can ornaments actually create empathy towards the users? So it is proven that it can be in the general form and shape, where you can see that Lincoln's memorial sketch, where you can tell that it tells all the values of Abraham Lincoln through this building alone. And then the values enhanced by the details of the ornaments. It's not too much of the ornaments, but you can see like Snowdon Elementary School where they designed the school for the kids with empathy, where they actually use more of a casual approach towards the furniture and the material. Then we talk about the site where Dok Kachau, you can see over here, is a very beautiful garden full of vibrant color. And what I extract from this site is more towards its intimacy. And what I meant by intimacy is towards a memorable experience between two close users. And is defined by that social space you can see below there, where is we talk about the social spaces of intimate distance, personal distance, social distance, public distance. So this is how it will look like in the abstract art where you talk about grammar of the musician using the three words empathy, action, intimacy. So you can see is how it translates is like through two different characters from the Nonoi animation, the original characters, where they have their own intimate spaces and they are coming in together and clashing into one space. And then you can see like that kind of boundary that defines that how they perceive as user space and how does it overlap and together and how it comes together. And so it's like it shows like how two different spaces of intimacy can actually be connected through another common space where all of this can be can create a new opportunity or a memorable event for the two different users. So we enter into part two, the building elements, where how the part one inspired the part two elements. But before we go into that, I did a bit of precedent study about what defines the intimate spaces. So from here you can see like most of them, like how I combine everything together is like you talk about ambiguity of space, functionality, you talk about leveling and uh, layering of spaces, like you can see in Casa and the layering, and then the rental space tower shows like how a small space can be like private and public, and it becomes like intimate space. And then you talk about the expression of the design, the form, and then the screening of it through the garden on top. You can see like how this harmony of public spaces and private spaces and nature can create that kind of intimate spaces for users. So through this inspiration, I'm looking, this is my process of how I use a wall and an action and leveling, all these things that I did from a precedent study to create so-called wall building elements into how they can become like an intimate space, and then how I can connect them into something else. So and then how I can put inside a different layering of privacy. So like you can see down there, there's like how I can put something defined as a capsule, okay? So through here is like what I redefine as a wall towards a capsule. So it's mostly like how I inspired from the my previous artwork, where I can try to create intimate spaces through the use of shapes, screens, and all these things. But what can it be more than that? Like from the wall, it can create like it can serve like more privacy, more connectivity, and more intimacy towards the space. And then it also created a new kind of ambiguity towards the usage of the space itself. So it's like we allow infinity function for by the potential of the spaces, like how Fujimoto said. So this is like how the external will look like. So it's actually like some kind of capsule that the capsule can be put inside another bigger capsule to create that layering of space, like that is proven from that's shown by the Casa N from Fujimoto. So we go into part three, transdisciplinary craft center schematic proposal. So it comes to my design brief, where I look into the Bang Krachas, one of the site issue, where it's a dispersed community of the site. So there's a lot of different type of people, different type of communities that they actually dispersed, they don't come together. So my building is going to be something that connects these people together. And how does it improve to the craft center? So it becomes like my main idea is to look back into what I did into A, where I look into the modern adaptation, and how do we research, and how did this community can work together to make a new evolution, or a more new evolution for the Nang Talong to appeal to its modern society. So I look into the site synthesis first, the planning and how I plan to do it, because I want to respect the site of the Dok Kachau. It's a very beautiful site. I don't want to destroy anything there, no, I want to obstruct any view. So what I plan to do is to have a few outdoor common spaces poking out from the garden itself, where they are all connected through a datum of an underground space. So this is how it will generally look like. This is an idea first. Then we look into the programmatic diagram, like how that actually works. So the main idea over here is how you can see they bring few different communities together, and then how they can actually work together and share a bit of ideas, where it can benefit the craft and can benefit tourism in the long run. So you can see like through the processes, you have the research, how three different people come together into a discussion area. Then this is all a bit of a list of programs of what we must have into this Nang Talon Research Committee Studio. That's why I'll call it lah. Then you have a discussion room, library, and you have a drafting area. All these things. There's like this community relationship between the Nai Nang, the traditional Nai Nang, and all these modern filmmakers and artists, where you must get approval from what they want to do and all these things, right? Then you have tourists that comes along the way, and they can actually learn from it through the workshops. They can buy something as a souvenir. So all of this, right, we go through this process of execution. Then it provides an opportunity of new evolution of Nang Talon. So every new projects, these projects can eventually be broadcasted into internet to the users outside, and then it can be presented into towards the tourists as well. So it's also like helping the craft in terms of open exposure, okay, and providing financial funds for the craft and the locals. So in the last section, you can see like the same schematic section of how I incorporated everything together. In which you can see over here is still using the same concept from the 2A, And I'm also like in a bigger scale utilizing the multi-layer space of a capsule into a bigger capsule, and how respect the site in terms of utilizing the garden and then only putting a few outdoor elements from uh, poking out from the garden itself. So in the whole general thing is like how I inspired from the craft intimacy from all the way from 2A to until now is how I create intimate spaces through the layer of zoning and social spaces where the users can actually have intimate experience privately or socially, at the same time providing the infinite possibilities of what a space can be.